Hey everyone, Decav13 here, and welcome back to some more Let's Play Fate Stay Night. Things went kind of bad last time. Archer went and defected over to Castor's side, so now Castor has two servants at her disposal. Well, Assassin as well, but Assassin's not really much of a issue in this new location she's at. So that's not great. But Rin and Shirou have decided to team up again, and they are going to try to go ask Illya and Berserker for help. I don't have a lot of faith in that, considering that today's chapter is entitled Versus Berserker, so we'll have to see what happens there. But hey, let's jump right on into it, shall we? Okay, another interlude. She ponders in the dark by herself. It has already been a day since she attacked the church and killed the priest. It has been a day since she declared that she will find it no matter where it is hidden, if it exists. It may not be the case for other servants, but there's no way someone as versed in magecraft as her cannot find a holy relic like the Holy Grail. Then there is only one answer. The Holy Grail never existed in this church to start with. Letting out a small sigh, she puts her finger on her temple. When she closes her eyes, the heavy darkness weighs heavily on her whole body. That is simply a scream. It is not someone else's. The scream comes from her body and mind, telling her that she is in a critical state of fatigue. It has already been a month since she was summoned. During that time, she has done her best just to win. Her master is an ordinary person without a magic circuit, and she herself is the weakest of the servants. In order to make up for that shortcoming, she abused magecraft that was prohibited. She's been exploiting the citizens. She's been manipulating the ley line using human sacrifices and the threads of magical energy that she has placed throughout town. That is the cause for why she was called a witch when she was alive. But she had never used them before. She should have never used them, and she had no intention of doing the forbidden. So, why did she end up using them for such a meaningless kill fest? She became a heroic spirit for her own revenge. However, she understands that it is meaningless to use the magecraft that diminished her to being a witch. She only uses trivial magecraft. It was her creed to inflict certain curses that people referred to as disasters. They could cause people to destroy themselves with their own greed and return to their true selves. That was all the revenge she could manage, so what caused her to stray from her path so much?
すべては聖杯のため。あらゆる望みを叶える聖杯なのだから、気が違うのは当然です。
That is a lie. She knows the true identity of the Holy Grail. She has known what the thing is and for what objective servants like her are summoned for a long time. It is true that most wishes can be granted by the Holy Grail that appears in this town. It could allow her to stay in this world as a physical entity instead of a heroic spirit, thereby allowing her to live a second life as a human. However,
バカね。そんなことに何の意味があるという。
she mutters and closes her eyes. She empties her mind. For a moment, she temporarily lets her guard down and rests her mind. She hears the sound of rain. It was a moonless night. Her empty heart wanders in the surrounding pitch-black darkness. That is where she met him, with a bloody body and frozen limbs. That coincidence was a miracle among miracles. It took place at the mountain that houses Ryudo Temple. Falling rain. She wanders aimlessly in the gloomy, dense forest. She leaves behind traces of blood. In her hand is the dagger that breaks contracts. The purple robe was wet from the rain, and her limbs had turned white from the winter rain. She staggers around, holding onto the trees for support. She walked on, dirtied with mud, her breath ragged, reaching out her hand as if asking for help. She did not look like her usual self that is always composed. No, there were not even any remnants of magical energy. She is exhausted. There is only a fistful of magical energy left in her. For a servant, magical energy is like the body that allows them to exist. But she was losing all of her magical energy because her master was not supplying her with any. But that was only natural. She killed her own master just now. That is the sole cause for her exhaustion. She, the servant known as Castor, was trying to disappear in this mountain as compensation for obtaining freedom. A dry laugh. It is funny that her body is falling apart after she stabbed her vulgar master in the back. Moreover, it's also funny how she underestimated her connection with her master. She had done well. Her master was a legitimate master. He was in his 30s and had an average build and didn't have many notable characteristics. He didn't have any intention to fight, but dreamed only of winning. He was a man that only waited for the self-destruction of the other masters in the shadows. The man didn't trust Castor. He disliked Castor as a skilled mage, and he insulted her for being inferior to other servants. She gave up on him after a few days. She acted as an obedient servant and continued to fulfill the man's self-esteem. As a result, she made him use up his command spells on simple, meaningless things. She told him he did not need his command spells. She made him believe that she would pledge her loyalty to her master even without the command spells. In conclusion, it was his fault for believing her. The master used his 3 command spells on meaningless things, and he was killed by Castor at that moment. It was easy. It was unpleasant for her contract with that man to still exist, so she finished him off with the contract breaker. But she had made a mistake. Servants exist using the supply of magical energy from their master. But it isn't just about obtaining magical energy. Servants are only allowed to exist in this age because they are connected to a human from this age. In other words, to lose one's master, their passport to this age, means being deported to the outside world. However, one would not normally be this exhausted. This is the curse that her master left. Her master did not approve of Castor, a mage that is more skilled than him. Therefore, he always kept her magical energy supply at a level below his own. The amount of magical energy that a human possesses is not enough to keep a heroic spirit in this world. She would normally be able to last 2 days even if she lost her master. But this time is different. Her magical energy was drastically decreasing with every second, and she starts to see the end. Probably a few more minutes. She will disappear if she doesn't find the next master to make a contract with. She is going to disappear before she could even fight, as a pitiful servant that got summoned just to be trampled on, unable to accomplish anything at all. It was vexing. It was vexing, but it was not a big deal. Because it was always like that. She was always treated unfairly. She was always someone else's tool, and she was never understood by anyone. Yes, her life was always controlled by someone else. Her mind was destroyed at a young age in order to save Jason, a hero chosen by the gods. Just for the sake of the hero the goddess of beauty happened to favor, the goddess cursed her to blindly love a man she did not even know. With a blank mind, she betrayed her father and even her own country. She has no recollection of anything that happened afterwards. After everything was over, the girl, who was a princess, was in an unfamiliar country. The girl who betrayed her father, the king, for a man. The witch who cut apart her own brother and mercilessly threw the pieces into the sea. The man who wished for that in order to become king cast her aside, saying that he could not marry a witch. She was taken to an unfamiliar country while still being manipulated, was labeled as a witch, and the only person she could rely on threw her away. That is her origin. She had nothing to be blamed for, and the people around her understood that. Despite that, the people still demanded that she continue to play the role of a witch. An evil to protect the king. An evil to be on the receiving end of dark superstitions. They wanted a convenient scapegoat that they could blame for any disaster. That system hasn't changed. Humans desire an easily understandable evil so they can reassure themselves of their own goodness. In that regard, she was the perfect scapegoat. The father she could rely on was in the distant country. There was not a single person who defended her, so that people could comfortably blame her for things. How they are poor, how they hate others, how people are ugly, even how people die. They decided that everything was that witch's fault. That's why she just accepted it. Since she can only live as a witch, she decided to live like a witch. She just swore that she would show them how ugly the thing they desired and celebrated was. If people do not know their ugliness, then so be it. They can stay ignorant, go to hell for their own crimes, and suffer forever. They will not be able to get out of hell. They can only suffer as criminals for the rest of their lives, since they do not know what crimes they have committed. That is the meaning of the existence she has imposed for herself. The role that they gave to the girl who had been called a witch and never had free will. But something like that, it's not something that someone wished for. That is the same for her. She just continues to seek revenge without any wishes of her own. Yes, until she met this stranger at this moment. A rustling sound. She glares ahead while struggling to remain conscious. It is midnight. What kind of human would come into this forest?
そこで何をしている?
It was a heavy voice. She did not even have the composure to check who it was. She just thought it was all over. She had no power to use magecraft. Her purple robe might have looked like a coat, but she was covered in blood from the waist down. A woman covered in blood is hiding in this rain. It was obvious what this human would do just from seeing that. They would run away first. What would they do after that? They would either report it or pretend they hadn't seen it. Either way, it did not matter to her, as she could not move as she wanted to. That caused the last of her spirit to give out. Her final moment was lonely and cold, just like the end of her true lifetime. Or so she thought. When she regained her consciousness, she was at that place. Sitting in front of her was that human, the man she met in the woods.
起きたか? 事情は話せるか?
Those were his first words. When she watched the man with blank amazement,
迷惑だったのなら帰るがいい. 忘れろと言うなら忘れよ.
the man tells her in a tone of voice that doesn't change. That was how she met her master, Soichiro Kuzuki. Kuzuki was a strange man. Should he be called a ghost? He had no reason to live, but he had no reason to die. He was just there, and since he existed, he did what was given to him. He had no self. That was her first impression of him, so she thought it would be easy to turn him into a puppet. She gradually realized that was a mistake. Soichiro Kuzuki has no past. He has no self because he has no past, and it does not mean that Kuzuki himself is empty. In reality, Kuzuki was a sincere man. He easily accepted her when she told him she wanted him to be her master, and when she revealed her identity.
このような話を信じるのですか?
今のは嘘なのか?
Of course, if she replies to him that it is the truth, then he would accept it. She was able to stay in this world by gaining a new master, and was able to return to her role as a witch. Even now, she thinks that was a miracle. She would have disappeared before she awakened if she had not been taken to Ryudo Temple. Ryudo Temple is a demonic place for servants, but it is the perfect place for summoning once inside. The bounded field that surrounds Ryudo Temple is useful for keeping any inhuman beings inside from disappearing. She was saved right before she was going to disappear because she was brought to Ryudo Temple. If it had been a different place, she would have vanished after being taken there. As a result, she found the best ley line and an impregnable defense. She was easily able to take over Ryudo Temple, figured out the mechanism of the Holy Grail, and summoned Assassin as the fifth servant. But such things are trivial matters. She was certainly lucky that night. Many miracles saved her, and now victory is within her sight. But none of it is worth her thanks. If there were nothing, she would have just been as content to give up. There was just one thing that was really important. A very small matter that is not important for anyone else. The coincidence that she was able to meet Soichiro Kuzuki is a miracle beyond belief. But even that's not going well. No, she sighs that nothing she does goes well. Her master won't be happy even if she does such a thing like this. He has not had any interest in the Holy Grail from the start. If he had a clear wish, she would do her best to grant it, but Soichiro Kuzuki has none. A one-sided relationship. They do not get along well. Even the fact that their relationship is like that shows things aren't going well.
ミイラ取りがミイラになったか。希代の魔女というのも案外脆いものだな。
She turns to the intruder. It is not her master standing there. It is the knight in a red cloak, Archer, whose identity is still unknown.
アーチャー、あなたには外の見張りを任せたはずですが。
ああ、それがな、ざっと見たところ、周囲に敵という敵がいない。退屈を持て余してね、中の様子を見に来たのだ。
それはそうでしょうね。私たちの敵はバーサーカーだけよ。それもセイバーさえ陥落すればこちらから撃って出るだけ。あなたが私たちに寝返った時点でもう敵なんていないのよ。あなたもそれが分かっていたからこそこちらに着いたのではなくて。
さてどうかな。私はあのマスターと契約を切りたかっただけとは思わないか。あのマスター以外なら契約者は誰でもよかったと。
Archer's frivolous talk has some truth in it. But what does it mean? Does that mean Archer had no intention of betraying, but betrayed his master only because he wanted to break his contract with Rin Tosaka?
そう。小娘のおもりはごめんということ。確かに私たちサーバントは総じてマスターに不満を持つわ。あなたが愛想を尽かすのも当然でしょうね。
いや、召喚者として彼女は完璧だった。ただ少しばかり狂いが生じただけだ。それとキャスター、一つ忠告しよう。あらゆるサーバントが君と同じだとは思わないことだ。少なくともセイバーとバーサーカーは主に不満を抱いてはいなかった。正しい英雄というものはね、正しい人間にしか刺激できないものなんだ。
何を今さら。ねじ曲がったマスターだからこそねじ曲がった英霊を呼ぶ。そのようなことあなたに言われるまでもないわ。
That is right. The quality of a servant changes depending upon the summoner. Summoners with dark shadows in their minds cannot summon heroic spirits who are on the side of light. In that regard, she and Ryder are not heroic spirits. A twisted summoner calls for twisted heroic spirits. Just as Ryder was once a beautiful being, so too is Castro once a pure being. It is ironic that the heroic spirit that Castro summoned was a fictional hero.
しかし考えてみればおかしな話だな。君やライダーは英霊に敵対するものだろう。にもかかわらずサーバントとして選ばれている。まあ聖杯には善悪の区別はない。力のある人間霊なら誰であろうと組み上げるということか。
いいえ、本来そんな英霊としての側面もあるものなんて混ざり物は選ばれない。この戦いがおかしくなったのは3度目からよ。それまでは私やライダーのような英霊は呼ばれなかった。
That does not concern her now. She is also not interested in the true nature of the Holy Grail. Her mission as the servant that goes by Castor is only to win this war. She is not interested in what comes after. No, to be honest, that is not the end she wishes for.
無駄話はここまでよ、アーチャー。持ち場に戻りなさい。あなたが何を考えているかはどうでもいいわ。あなたはすでに私のサーバント。その命は私の手の中にある。
了解した。では 従順なサーバントらしく、主の期待に応えるとしよう。
The knight in red goes up the stairs with an unchanging tone of voice. She watches him in silence and takes a deep sigh. One more day until Saber surrenders. She has not been able to find the Holy Grail as of yet, but she will be one step closer to the end once Saber joins her ranks. What will happen once the war ends? Castor shall make every wish come true with that power. Continuing to live as a witch just as she swore to when she was alive wouldn't be so bad. But there will be no reason once the war ends. Even if she still has the will, her owner will have no reason to be her master anymore.
あと少しで聖杯はこの手に収まる。
Castor extends her pale hand into empty space. Her long and hard work is about to be rewarded, but her expression is like that of a criminal who is about to be executed. I saw many corpses. I died at that time and was reborn. I don't have repentances about the path I took. My eyes lost their hatred. My hands lost their anger. My feet lost their hope. And I lost myself there. I lost everything. It is not because I gave up that I accepted that nothing would be saved. I just found out that it's natural. It's just that dying people will die and survivors will survive. I laid down on the mountain of rubble and gazed at the spreading ruins. I understood everything then. I thought I understood everything. But I still thought about it. If I can save everything here, how wonderful that would be. That is what I admired. I just thought that it would be nice if no one had to suffer. I tried to become a hero of justice for that sake. It was easy to understand, and seems like an ideal way to live. That's why I aimed for it. I can see where I had to be, and there are many ways to get there. I just kept on running, wanting to get close to it as possible, even though I didn't know what was right or wrong. Many paths that I took were crooked, and my destination was only getting farther away. I'm taking the long way. I've been repeating this for 10 years since I got saved by Kiritsugu. But I won't regret it. I'm not skilled like Tosaka. I will take the wrong path and lose many things at times. But I can't disregard them as meaningless. I have to show meaning for why I survived for the sake of the things I have trampled over and things that won't come back. I won't lose for that sake. It can't be helped if I lose against others. But if I can win against myself. I can always resist against my mind that says to give up. That's all I swore upon. There's only one thing that I believed in and want to believe in. Yes, even if I'm walking down the wrong path, I will not regret believing in it. I'm awakened by the light pouring in from outside. It's before 6 a.m. The sky outside at the window is cloudy, as if sprinkled with ashes. I get ready and leave my room. My body is in good condition and there's not much pain in my wound anymore. I shouldn't be a burden to Tosaka like this, even if I were to engage in battle. Man. Oh, glasses.
準備はいい？シロ。
I'm ready, but Tosaka is transformed.
何よ、地雷踏んで動けなくなった新兵みたいな顔して。まだ準備できてないの？
いや、そうじゃなくて、父さんがなんか変じゃないか。
は？ああ、これ細かい作業の時にかけるだけだから気にしないで。
Well, I guess that's fine if she says so. I wonder what kind of magecraft this is that makes it look so wrong, yet so right.
いい？私たちが向かうのは郊外の森。町からはるかに離れた市街。まだ人の手が入っていない広大な樹海よ。長年人間の介入を拒んできただけあって、森は深くて広いわ。ね 年に何人か何の準備もなしに踏み込んで遭難したって話知ってるでしょ？
I nod silently. Our destination is the Einsburn villa that is said to be somewhere in the forest. That girl. Our fate is decided the moment our negotiation with Illya's field breaks down, we end up fighting. We can't call for help, and it'll be difficult to run away. We can't escape from the forest alive if we don't defeat that giant. Berserker.
じゃあそろそろ行きましょう。徹夜して場所に当たりはつけといたから、うまくすれば半日ぐらいで見つけられるはずよ。とりあえず国道までは車を使うからタクシー代用意しといて。
She picks up a Boston bag full of things and starts walking. I go after her with my bamboo sword bag in one hand. But, Tosaka, money for the taxi is fine, but does that mean we'll be walking on the way back home? We ride the taxi for an hour from town. We ride on the endless highway, passing several mountains, and reach the entrance of the forest. Of course, there are no paved roads in the forest. We walk about 1 kilometer from the highway and finally reach the entrance to the forest. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I can't help but get nervous once I actually face it. The forest is dark, even though it's daytime. The tall branches that cover the sky shut out the sunlight, and it's hard to see more than 10 meters ahead, let alone the end of the forest.
ちょっとシロ、悪いけど先に進んでみてくれない？
いいけど、あの子の居場所を知ってるのは遠坂なんだろ？俺が先に行っても仕方がないと思うわ。
I complain as I enter the forest. Then...
なんだ、ビリッときたぞ。
I pull back my foot reflexively. I only felt numb for an instant. The numbness itself is subtle, and it hurts way more to stub your toe on a dresser. Well, it's basically like a static shock.
やっぱり識別だけだろうけど、森全体に管理が行き届いてるみたいね。
ちょっと待て。それまずいんじゃないのか。要するに防犯ベルに引っかかったってことだろう。なら
別に問題ないんじゃない？私たちは奇襲に来たわけじゃないもの。話し合いに来たんだから、むしろ今からアピールしておいた方が得でしょ？
I guess that's fair.
あ、一応気をつけろよ。ちょっとビリッとくるから。
分かってる分かってる。シロの見てたからどんなものか分かってるって。
Still gonna take her by surprise, isn't it? Tosaka waves her hand and steps into the forest. At that moment... Jesus! That was a little more than a shock. Tosaka lets out a funny scream and jumps back. I hear crackling electricity. I want to believe that it's my imagination that the leaves piled up under Tosaka's feet are scorched.
個人差がある警報みたいだな。俺には挨拶程度だったけど。
Really doesn't want Tosaka in here. I calmly explain the situation. You alright, Rin? But it doesn't seem like Tosaka is listening to me.
やってくれるじゃないあのガキ。今笑ったの確かに聞こえたんだから。
Tosaka yells at the empty space where there isn't anyone. I don't know where that line went, as her threatening attitude seems like she might go fight instead of talk. Well, anyways, it seems like talking bad about Tosaka is fatal no matter how far away you are from her, so I should be careful. Good instinct, Shirou. We walk through the forest. We're the only living humans among these infinite trees. I don't hear the breathing of any beasts, and the plants in winter are as lifeless as corpses. The endless sea of trees that seem to go on forever makes me constantly feel apprehension. It's already been 3 hours since we entered the forest. It's way past noon, and just as I have become unable to tell whether there have been any changes in the landscape...
見つけた。聞いてはいたけど呆れたわ。本気でこんなところにあんなものを建てるなんて。
I follow Tosaka's line of sight. There's only darkness ahead. Between the trees, there's some incredibly out-of-place thing that can be seen through the cracks that are so small they could easily be missed by anybody who doesn't pay close attention.
なんだあれ？壁か？
壁よ。 まったくどうかしてるわ。あれ、自分たちの国から丸ごと持ってきたものよ。
Tosaka curses and heads to the strange object we see in the distance. I follow after her, still bewildered, unable to grasp what it is. We get out of the forest. The forest that seemed to be endless abruptly ends. Now it seems like the traces of the forest vanished, as if they'd carved out just this big part with a spoon. The gray sky curving above us is so high that I can't see everything. A huge dome-like space. This is more like an underground kingdom instead of an open space. Yeah. That was Illya's Field's dwelling. The old castle built in the middle of the forest. It's a solitary castle in the forest that has no visitors. It is too big for that girl to live in, and it is too lonely to live in alone. Anyway, does no good to falter here. According to Tosaka, Illya's Field knows that we came here. Then we should go confidently from the front entrance to show that we don't have any enmity.
よし、行くぞ、トサカ。ってトサカ？
Tosaka looks up at the castle with an alarming expression. Her side profile looks as tense as it does when she's confronting an enemy.
トサカ、気になるもんでもあったのか？
私たち以外に誰かいる。
Oh?
そりゃいるだろう。イリアってことバーサーカーの住処なんだから。
そうじゃなくて、それ以外の誰かってことよ。シロ、こっちから入るわよ。
ちょっとお前。
Without a chance to stop her, Tosaka starts running to the big tree by the wall. No, that's not all. Tosaka grabs onto a branch and skillfully climbs up. I look up in astonishment. Tosaka looks around the castle and she jumps and kicks at the castle's second floor. A shattering sound. A window breaks and the red figure disappears into the castle.
ほら早く。本気でおかしいわよ、この城。
もう話し合いをするんじゃなかったのかよ。
But what's done is done. I also climb the tree and jump into the second floor of the castle like Tosaka. I go out to the hallway from the room we invaded. Before I can even marvel at how magnificent this place is, the abnormality Tosaka mentioned earlier grabs my attention. The sound echoing is definitely the sound of battle. The sound of swords clashing. But is a storm-like sword fight like that even possible? Even the most intense sword fight that I've ever witnessed so far, the one between Saber and Berserker, didn't make these kinds of sounds. Then I suddenly realize, this doesn't sound like your average sword fight. This is one against many. There's literally a war going on somewhere in this castle. Okay, so, yeah, Gil came here to get Illya. There's no doubt that one of them is Berserker. This castle is Ilya's Field's castle. If a battle were to occur, it would only be when Berserker is attacking an intruder. I start running. The sounds are echoing from below. Judging from where the sounds are coming from relative to our entry point, the battle is in the center of the castle, in the reception hall. I run through the unfamiliar castle. This isn't the time to be exchanging opinions. I don't know what's happening, but it feels like it will lead to permanent consequences. I run down the stairs. The fierce sword fight is happening close by.
閉めた。ここ広間の吹き抜けに繋がってる。
Tosaka checks the end of the passage. The hallway splits at a T-junction and both seem to lead to the terrace at either side of the hall.
ここで別れましょう。私はこっちから様子を見るから、シロはそっちからお願い。
It's better to split up than to stay together in one place. With the way we are now, we don't have any way to escape if we're found. We don't stand a chance either way. So we'll split up. If we split up, even if one was found, there's hope that the other can manage to escape somehow. Tosaka goes down the hallway facing east. I nod and go down the other hallway. The hallway on the other side facing west.
シロ、
She suddenly stops me.
分かってるわね。何が起きようと絶対に手は出さないで。今の私たちに戦う手段はない。いい？やばいと思ったらすぐに逃げるのよ。どちらかが捕まっても構わず走って。誰かを助けるなんて、まず自分を助けてから考えることなんだから。
Her her voice is suppressing her emotions. That sounded more like a plea than a warning. I go around and come out to the terrace of the lobby. I see Tosaka emerge from the opposite side on the terrace far away. She immediately takes cover and peeks out to see what's going on while hiding. The instant we look down at the hall, we both suppress our voices. Yup.
なんだってあいつこんなところに
Shinji stands atop the rubble in the corner of the lobby, observing the spectacle with joy. No, that's not it. That's not the surprising thing. Right now, the truth is... the truth that I have to accept right now is the battle that Shinji is observing. The Black Giant lets out a roar. The swinging axe sword stirs up a cloud of dust and crushes the rubble into powder. Berserker is no different than before. No, his blood-curdling roar doesn't compare to what it sounded like before. Behind the giant is the pale white girl, Berserker's master, Illya. That girl was always smiling innocently and unfit for a kill fast. That girl is now shivering and staring at her own servant about to cry out. Her pale face is desperately trying to deny the despair in front of her. Someone help me. That's what the trembling lips of the snow-white girl seem to say. A whirlwind blows violently. Berserker's axe sword is repelled each time. In the center of the hall, by the noble phantasm of one servant reigning the throne of rubble. The countless numbers of swords dance. Each one of the weapons appearing behind the man is undeniably a fatal weapon. They pierce through, like hot water. The bottomless noble phantasm destroys Berserker's body, as if repelling his axe sword wasn't already enough. His limbs fly off. The swords cut through his body, penetrate his head, and pierce his heart. But he still does not die. The giant revives after each instantaneous death that he suffers and resolutely advances towards his enemy. 8 times already. Berserker moves forward while being killed mercilessly that many times. That enemy welcomes him with a smile. The repeated tragedy. Berserker is killed many times, unable to get close to his enemy.
Buck.
It's not because Berserker is being defeated without being able to do anything. That man, that servant is beyond belief. All the noble phantasms that are repeated infinitely are real. I can tell since I have projected Archer's swords. Those are the original versions of every noble phantasm, the ones from before they became legends. Who could he be? Being a heroic spirit who's able to retain so many weapons. First of all, there should be 7 servants. Then he's the 8th one. Is he the one who shouldn't exist? I can't breathe. Berserker is nothing less than astounding. A body made out of steel and that superhuman strength. On top of that, he can regenerate on the spot even if he dies. He's not an opponent that can be matched. The 8th servant doesn't retreat from such a monstrous opponent, overwhelms Berserker with the repeated magic swords and holy swords. When I look up, Tosaka's face on the other side was also pale. It's only natural. The space below us is a land of death. We'll die instantly if we enter it. No, more than that. He is a demon. A different atrocity than Berserker. This man lacks order and wishes for battles only for the objective of killing. But, even with such an unusual enemy in front of him, the Black Giant is still the strongest. His steps don't cease, even if his whole body is pierced or cut up. He receives the rain of noble phantasms, regenerates each time, and surely closes in on his enemy. It is an advance devoid of tactics. He is not thinking of any ways to countering his enemy's attacks. He moves forward as long as he is alive. It is a savage battle about just killing the enemy. He will not reach the enemy. Berserker's brute courage will prove futile, and his life will end as just a mere target. That enemy understands that. That's why he stopped on purpose and is just provoking the giant that foolishly moves forward. There's no chance of victory for the black giant with this method. It's something that the man confronting him and I, looking on as an outsider, can tell. And most likely, even Berserker himself, who's being used for target practice, must have realized the same thing a while back. Yet the giant keeps stupidly moving forward. He knows no retreat and doesn't try to avoid the attacks. That man welcomes the figure with a smile.
所詮はバーサーカー、戦うだけのものであったか。同じ半身として期待していたが、よもやそこまでアホとはな。
The noble phantasms appear. Roaring with laughter, the man commands the noble phantasms behind him.
では、そろそろ引導を渡してやろう。これ以上近づかれては暑苦しい。
At his signal, the numerous noble phantasms attack the giant. The giant repels a majority of them, and at the same time, a majority of them take his life. The black giant shakes. The body of rock starts to fall. But the giant holds out and shakes off the noble phantasms clinging all over his body. The astonishment comes from that man. The black giant gets rid of the swarm of noble phantasms and closes in on his enemy. His body is already a corpse. The black giant advances with what should be a hopelessly fatal wound. That is the result of a strong will. It is not the madness due to being berserker. The giant is facing this hopeless battle with a strong will.
でかいだけの的が未だ形をとどめるか。
The magic bullets are fired mercilessly. Repelling them with his axe sword, the giant closes in on the man with his body slashed and legs pierced. He most likely won't reach the man. Yet for him to still challenge himself while understanding that, he must have something that he cannot give up. What is he moving forward for? The servant fights for his master to protect her life. That is why that giant did not retreat. He could only move forward as a shield to protect his master behind him, the frightened girl from the reign of noble phantasms. The giant resumes his foolish advancement. It is because he knew that he could only defeat the enemy while protecting Illya's by taking all the attacks himself. And if he is able to reach his enemy, then that is when he wins. It was this kind of battle from the start. The man has to kill the black giant before he reaches him, and the giant has to approach the man before his life ends. This is a battle where whoever accomplishes their own goal first survives. The giant is aware of that, even if that is a battle that he had no chance of winning from the start. He lets out a roar. Coming out of his 10th death, the black giant runs. He charges toward the man, stirring up rubble like a bull challenging a matador. Numerous arrows are released. Did he get used to it from the repeated deaths, or was it his final charge? The giant repels all the arrows, and closes in on the owner of the noble phantasms. The axe sword is swung. The strong sword that had not been swung at the man at all zips through the air with a flash. The black bull is captured by numerous chains that appear. What kind of noble phantasm is it? The chains that suddenly appeared in midair lock Berserker up as a binding space itself. The chains tighten Berserker's arms and twist them in every direction. As the chains wrap around his whole body, they continuously get tighter and even try to squeeze his rock-like neck off with tension.
これでも死なぬか。かつて天の王子すら束縛した鎖だが、お前を仕留めるには至らぬらしい。
The man's voice, The hall is filled with the creaking sounds of the chains. It must be Berserker's strength. The giant tries to cut off the chains that control space itself. Even if it initially sounds impossible, there's no doubt that the giant can accomplish that. And of course, the man understood that as well. The girl screams. Illya's uses a command spell to command Berserker to retreat by force. But the giant is still captured by the chains and unable to move an inch.
私の中に帰れって言ったのにどうして？
無駄だ人形。この鎖に繋がれたものはたとえ神であろうと逃れることはできん。いいな。神性が高ければ高いほど餌食となる。元より神を律するためだけに作られたもの。霊樹による空間転移などこの俺が許すものか。
And then, the man points to the giant as if to signal the end. An astonished girl's voice. It's over. This time it really ends. Bound by the chains and therefore unable to defend himself, he gets annihilated by the noble phantasm 22 times. The black giant goes silent as he is forced to assume the shape of what can only be described as a strange statue. There's no need to even check whether he's breathing or not. Even if he is a great hero that overcame 10 deaths, he should not be able to get back up after experiencing over 20 deaths. Yes. Even if he is alive, the giant should not have enough strength to even breathe. And the battle ends. It was known from the start who was going to win. Berserker could not win against that servant. No servant can be a match for that man as long as they are a heroic spirit. Heroic spirits each have their own weaknesses, which have been preserved from their time as living beings. By extension, each servant's origin story is their weakest point. Then, what would be the result of having a heroic spirit face off against someone who possesses all the noble phantasms, including the one that ended their life as a human? This is the result. Even if he may have been stronger as a hero, he cannot win against that man as long as he's a heroic spirit. The ghostly white girl runs to the black giant that became a corpse. And the man mercilessly slashes the girl with a sword in his hand. She screams. The man takes away the girl's vision with a single horizontal strike. For the next attack, the aim is to stab her heart. But that misses. No, he missed on purpose. The girl is pierced in the lung and she coughs up blood. The chains are broken. The black giant breaks the chains and launches an attack on the man. The man stabs the slow-witted target. The spear pierces his heart. He finishes off the giant with a spear similar to Lancer's noble phantasm, Gay Bulk. Then it ends. The black giant dies for sure this time. The sword is pulled out from the collapsed girl. Leaving traces of red behind, the girl crawls to the giant that is no longer moving. Watching in delight, the man walks forward. He threw away his sword. He will use his bare hands to finish off the dying girl. I'll die. I'll probably die. I'll die for sure this time. That servant has no logic. He will kill anyone in his way. If I don't get away from here before he finds me, I'll surely be killed. So I... Alright, sorry about that. Had to make a little cut because my fucking game crashed. Took me a while to get back here. Anyway. I think we should still stop him. My frozen body bursts out. My feet lift me up and my arms grab the railing at the same time. I see Tosaka's face as I do so. She's biting her lip in frustration, glaring at the tragedy happening below us. I know. It's obvious Tosaka wants to stop him as well. But we'll be the ones killed if we do so. There's no way we can stop him. That goes the same for me. I know that it's stupid of me to die trying to save the dying girl. I don't care about that. I can't leave that girl be. That's what overtakes my mind. I jump over the railing. Tosaka and Shinji both look in surprise at the intruder, but that man doesn't even see me jumping down. The man reaches out to the girl in white. I yell at the top of my lungs. I stop him with all my might.
Ho?
The man stops his arm that he tried to extend, and slowly, he turns toward me by the wall, like a grim reaper who's found his new prey. Oh, cool interlude. Perfect. Going back over a month, he was summoned to this world before anyone else. He was not summoned to this country, a faraway foreign country. The ground is constantly covered in white, the sky was always gray, and the castle was built hidden in the mountains. It is always winter in that land. Coldness and stagnation, barrenness and longing. They are like living corpses, cutting off their connection with the present world and waiting for a reproduction of a miracle. The winter coldness takes away their human warmth, and the stagnant world won't allow them a new lifestyle. His family were seekers of the Holy Grail. Spring won't come for the Einsburn family until the day their dearest wish is fulfilled. It has already been 10 centuries since they started the search for the Holy Grail. After using every possible method to get close to the Holy Grail, they were eventually able to cast the Holy Grail out of iron. However, all they could make was the vessel. No mystic dwelt within it, and they kept casting vessels that would never be filled. But a foreseeable end comes to those days. They performed a ritual to fill the vessel with the help of outsiders. The result was both a success and a failure. The Holy Grail was made. Through this, the Holy Grail would be filled. But it made many enemies at the same time. Even as the supposed owners of the Holy Grail, they were reduced to mere providers of a service, no better than any other mage. Their tenacity is abnormal. No, ever since they almost obtained the Holy Grail over 1,000 years ago, they had lost their minds. They broke the rules and constantly pulled the strongest card. The first time, they did not have the leeway to do so. The second time, they finally found a loophole in the rules. The third time, they summoned what they shouldn't have. Then the fourth time, they were sure of their victory after gaining the strongest card and its manipulator. The results were a crushing defeat like never before. Of all the servants and masters, they chose ones who betrayed them. The man destroyed the Holy Grail, leaving his daughter behind in the Winter Castle. They were furious at the man's betrayal and lamented their mistake. They could not trust outsiders after all. Only one of their bloodline, their family's creation who had inherited magic circuits perfected over generations, could obtain the Holy Grail. If they had a backup plan to start with. Then the fifth time, they made certain they prepared the strongest master and servant. That was him. 2 months before the Holy Grail started, every rule was broken for him, Berserker, to be summoned beforehand. The days that followed were only to hurt the human that would become the master. The command spell engraved all over the girl's body was the only way to control Berserker. It did no good as a magic circuit, and it drained her life away. Even just a slight move by Berserker would make the girl scream. It's no wonder. It was 2 months until the Holy Grail would appear. The only thing keeping this great hero in this world was her magical energy and command spell. Berserker was not created from the magical energy of the Holy Grail. No matter how special she is, keeping Berserker using only her own magical energy is like taking her own life away. Knowing that, they still did not allow for her to rest. They abandoned them in the winter forest, filled with a pack of hungry beasts. They gave them over to the corpses possessed by evil spirits. They were even thrown into the wasteland where they disposed of their failed experiments. The only way for the girl to survive was to rely on the giant, the only thing that she had been given. was beyond training. It was a fight for survival. Yet the girl survived. She had the giant attack the oncoming enemies. Every time she would let out screams of anguish, but had him ceaselessly eliminate everything that attacked. He himself does not know when that process became a special one to him. Aww. Despite the girl's young appearance, she hated whining. Everything that came out of her mouth was an insult. She must have instinctively known that if she was going to lament, she would become stronger if she hated the cause. The girl despised Berserker for being ugly and cursed his existence. It was natural. The girl would not have to suffer if he had not existed. She would not have been thrown in such a hell if she had not been chosen as a master. The girl detested the giant for everything and used him as an outlet for her anger. The girl got used to controlling Berserker, and by the time the Holy Grail showed signs of its appearance, the pain that attacked her disappeared. The girl took away reasoning from the giant as if in revenge, treating him as a mute mad warrior. But he already knew that was the girl's utmost resistance. By doing so, the girl hid her own weakness, that she could live by herself. She held her head high since she didn't need any allies that she could trust or friends that she loved. That was her way of disguising that she had nothing to call her own.
バーサーカーは強いね。
Aww. In the winter forest, the girl hesitantly touched his arm, stained red from the enemy's blood. Surrounded by a pack of beasts, the girl braced for death even as she desperately denied it. At that time, he was not able to move without an order from his master, so he was the first to become the beast's prey. The pack of beasts pierced his arteries, tendons, and eyeballs with their fangs. The girl screamed seeing that. He couldn't remember what she said then, since he had his reasoning taken away. But the girl screamed not for her sake, but for his. Even though he destroyed her arm every time he swung his own, she endured it so that he did not die. That's why both of them were covered in blood. The giant was covered in the slaughtered beast's blood, and the girl was covered in her own blood. He remembers that winter forest. The weight of the girl that leaned on him, crying tears of pain. And he realized, in that small, cold castle, the black giant was the only one the girl talked to. She comes into view. It was the same as that time. The girl is running to him crying, which he had not seen since she had become a master. And the man slashes her. With a horizontal flash, the blonde enemy takes away the girl's vision. Her face is covered in red. The blind girl runs in spite of that, tripping over rubble. The slender body falls. There. The enemy's sword is swung. The sword misses her heart. Her lung must have been pierced as the girl is coughing up blood, still on the ground. It is not an instant death, but it is fatal. The girl is left with nothing as her vision is taken away. Her lungs are broken, and she even lost her servant. If she could die peacefully, it might at least be a salvation if she could just go to sleep right there. However,
あれ痛い痛いよまさか
the girl is moving forward, leaving a trail of blood behind. She crawls towards the black giant, fumbling and crying in anguish. How much power was left in him? He breaks the chains with all his might and grabs at the man. The magical spear is thrust. The spear pierces the giant's heart. And it ends. The man pulls out the spear as if nothing happened, and the remaining power in the giant completely disappears. His body disappears. The power that was giving him form had completely disappeared. Then, all there is left for him is to disappear. The servant lost all his magical energy, and has no power to stay in this world any longer. He falls to the ground, but in his final moment, he sees the girl fumbling around for him in his peripheral. Strength returns to his collapsing legs. The law of magecraft that built him. The regulation of the world that he hates the regulation of the world that hates inconsistencies. And the body of rock that crumbles away as sand.
バーサーカーは強いね。
He pushes away every power that tries to eliminate him with just his will. I can't disappear yet. He's probably the only one who she could rely on. In order to support the lonely girl who insulted him, but still believed in him as her only reliance.
どこ？わかんない。真っ暗で何もわかんないよ。バーサーカー。
With her vision taken away, the girl is crawling with her arms stretched out. She must want to feel him as she cannot see him now. Her hands covered in blood grope at empty space, trying to verify his existence. There's no power left in him. There's nothing he can do. Berserker will fall here and die here. His body has died and he has no strength to support his falling body.
だから私は安心だよ。どんな奴にだってバーサーカーさえいれば負けないもの。
But not this time. His mind is dead. Supporting his body with a mind and will that should no longer exist, he leaves this world. His body is not fallen, still invincible. As if to say that his body cannot give up until the end for the sake of the girl that relies on him. And the girl reaches him. The hand that was only grasping the air finally touches something. Coughing up blood, the girl clings onto the hard body. She cannot see anymore, but she can still feel him. Berserker hasn't lost. She cannot see for herself, but Berserker is strong as always.
よかった。ずっとそこにいてね。バーサーカー。
Strength fades from her body. Everything hurts and she's scared. But it's all right as long as he's here. He always protected her. He was scary, but he was really nice. His big body is like a father's, so she really wanted him to pick her up at least once.
暗くても怖くないよ。バーサーカーは強いんだもん。こうしていてくれれば私は安心できるから。
She rests her body on him. She feels like a hard and big hand is placed on her head. It's probably true. He should be patting her head if she opens her eyes.
うん。ちょっと寒いね。
Her body is cold. Recalling the forest from that time, the girl laughs. It was a long time ago already. Recalling the giant that protected her even while getting injured, she happily falls and loses consciousness. Jeez. The man reaches out to the girl in white, who peacefully fell asleep. I yell at the top of my lungs. I don't consider my own danger of what could happen to me. The man stops his arm that he tried to extend. Behind him is Shinji, surprised at my intrusion. He smiles ominously. My shaky throat speaks before I can think. However, there's no way that man will stop. I couldn't even tell him to stop. The man pulled something out of the girl's body with his bare hands, with a smile still on his face. A red, dripping object that looks like a fruit. The thing in the man's hand is, without a doubt, the girl in white's. My mind burns down. I lose my sanity as fear of being killed and hatred of wanting to kill him gets muddled.
観客がいたか。俺の勇姿を見たいという気持ちはわかるが。
The man, still holding the red thing in his right hand.
身の程をわきまえろ。王に命じるとは何事か。 雑種
He fires one of his countless noble phantasms at me. The terrace falls. The man's noble phantasm goes through the wall of the castle and destroys the hall's walls. Okay, see, the game crashed a little bit into this. I kind of picked the other one, the game crashed, so that explains the green text. I don't move a step in the midst of it all. I don't care about the rubble that falls from above. I don't have the composure to run, and I have no intention to run. It doesn't matter whether a big piece of rubble grazes my back. I can't think of taking my eyes off of that man right now.
ほう何かと思えばセイバーのマスターとはな
His red eyes react to my enmity. My blood boils. I'll die in the next instant. There's no way I'm not afraid of that. But my body refuses to run away and keeps screaming to defeat that enemy right now. The corpse of the girl that was killed mercilessly keeps ordering me not to forgive him. It's only natural for me to lose all reasoning. My mind churns from the contradicting desires of life and death.
戦う意志はあるようだが話にならん肝心のセイバーがいないのでは貴様などに価値はない
A sword appears in the man's left hand. The sword is raised mercilessly and should come down to kill me. Even then, I keep staring at the enemy. I can't think of showing my back to that man.
ちょっと待てよ。そいつさ、僕の知り合いなんだよね。
The man's sword stops. Shinji, who is watching from the other side of the wall, starts walking to the center of the hall with light steps.
よう、久しぶりだな、エミヤ。こんなところで会うとは思わなかったんでね。
Hey Shinji, do me a favor, go fuck yourself. The man doesn't move. There's about 10 meters between us. Would I be able to get near him? Even Berserker couldn't close this distance.
なんだ、ブルって声も出ないのか？まあ、気持ちはわからないでもないよ。僕もライダーの時はそうだった。ああ、そうだったそうだった。いや、あの時は見逃してもらって助かったよ、エミヤ。
There's nothing I can use as a weapon, but I don't care. My mind is clear right now. I don't feel any uneasiness about projecting swords in this situation.
おい、僕がこっちを見ろって言ってるんだ。
No. I slightly shift my gaze in his direction. I face Shinji while keeping the man in my vision.
そうだよ。分かってるじゃんか。今ここで一番誰が偉いのかってことがさ。
I gasp a little. It's not Shinji's words, but rather the unexpectedly serious manner in which he says them.
そういうことだ。なら分かってるよな、エミヤ。お前、このままじゃ確実に死ぬよ。
How out of place. Why say something that's so obvious now?
紹介が遅れたが、そいつは僕の新しいサーバントでね。ライダーなんかよりすごいだろ。
Shinji puts his hand over the man's shoulder, and with a delighted face,
命乞いしろよ、エミヤ。少しは考えてやってもいいぜ。
I'll repeat what I said earlier. Go fuck yourself. He says some nonsense.
断る
I have no doubt. I answer right away, without showing any hesitation or showing any signs of even considering it.
そうかよ。それじゃ死んじゃえよ、お前。
Shinji jumps back. The man, still with a cold expression, finally brings his raised sword down.
そこまでよ。そこのサーバント。指一本でも動かせば、マスターの命は保証しないわ。
And the man stops his sword again. Everyone looks up. Everyone in the hall turns their attention to the girl standing at the terrace. Tosaka's hand is faced towards Shinji. Even though Shinji doesn't have the aptitude as a mage, he should know what that means. Tosaka is serious. If that man brings down his sword, she'll kill Shinji as retaliation.
遠坂 お前までなんでここに。
Tosaka doesn't answer, but just keeps her aim aligned on Shinji.
なんだよお前、本気で僕を撃とうってのか。
I mean,
この人殺し。
it doesn't really count if it's you. Let's be honest.
殺したのはそっちが先でしょう。もっともどうであれこっちの気は変わらないわ。シンジ、殺す権利と殺される権利は同じよ。そんなこと人間なら魔術師じゃなくても本能で理解なさい。
Shinji weakly retreats, being glared down by Tosaka. At that, that guy is watching in delight. He looks at Tosaka as if to belittle her. Then, I feel like there was a strange vibration that took over the hall for an instant.
なるほど。俺の打倒はできぬと悟り、マスターを狙ったか。交渉を持ちかけたのは、マスターを殺したところで俺が止まらぬと判断したからだな。
そうよ。シンジが死んだくらいじゃあんたは止まりそうにない。けどこの状況なら考えてもいいでしょ。今ならシンジを救えるもの。あんただってサーバントならマスターを失うのは痛手のはずよ。
なるほどなるほど。なかなかの起点だ。そこの雑種を助けたいのならば、その交渉しかありえまい。
The sword disappears. He turns his back to me as if he lost interest in me.
お前何のつもりだ。誰が止めろって言ったんだよ。
I mean, if you're so eager to die.
いや、状況が変わったぞシンジ。彼女ならば器としては文句なしだ。
Shinji's breath stops. His face filled with irritation suddenly turns into a dirty smile.
そうか。いや、
Uh-oh.
嬉しいよ父さんが。君がまだ生きていてくれて。
そう。一応私もほっとしたわ。あんたみたいなのでも付き合いは長いからね。どこかで死なれてたら気落ちするわ。
Laughing happily, Shinji claps his hands. It's strange. Shinji shows no fear even though Tosaka can end his life. It seems like an overwhelming joy is numbing his emotions.
まあいい。それよりどうだ父さんか。エミヤなんてほっといてさ、僕たちと手を組まないか。
僕たち？
そうだよ。君もキャスターが力を蓄えているのは知ってるだろ。竜道寺は今回の最難なんだ。そこに陣取られて魔力を蓄えられてるんだね。少しばかり不利になる。
Shinji says with both arms raised. But that's an obvious fact. On top of that, it seems like Shinji doesn't know about how Castor obtained Saber and Archer.
な、わかるだろ。一人でやっても勝ち目は薄いんだ。バーサーカーのマスターは倒したけど、これだけじゃ足りない。父さん、君がいればキャスターたちにも負けないものが作れるよ。
Shinji invites her with confidence. To that,
お断りよシンジ。あんたが誰とつながっているかは知らない。けどね、私から見てもいいように使われているだけのやつについていく道理はないわ。
Tosaka refuses him without twitching a brow.
なんだって。
わからない？腐れ縁から忠告するけど、もうちょっと周りを観察する知力を養いなさい。
He is a bit dim, isn't he?
マトウシンジをマスターだと思っているのはあんた一人だけよ。あんたには魔術師としての才能がないっていい加減気がついたら。
Shinji's face twitches. Tosaka's harsh words must have made him forget that his life is in her hands.
やれギルガメッシュ。エリアも遠坂も皆殺しだ。
Shinji orders to his own servant.
なんだよ。やれって言ってるだろ。お前なら僕がやられる前にやるなんて簡単じゃないか。
いや、残念だが時間切れだ。これ以上放置すれば腐ってしまう。
The man shows Shinji who is closing in on him the thing in his right hand. A red lump. It's the thing that he took out of the girl. It's still throbbing. Shinji grits his teeth in vexation.
くそー、後悔するなよ遠坂。もう仲間にしてやらないからな。
She never wanted to be on your side in the first place, dumbass. Shinji runs towards the front entrance. There's one person left. After the man slowly watches his master being angry,
だそうだ。良い友人を持ったな。
he says delightfully and leaves the hall filled with rubble. Well, this ended horribly, and we walk towards her. The center of the hall. With gray sunlight coming in from the ceiling, the girl is sleeping covered in rubble. Her eyes don't open. Looking up close, the girl is not white at all. The girl covered in red all over looks nothing like before.
シローのせいじゃないわ。分かってるでしょ。私たちじゃこの子を助けることなんてできなかった。
I know. I've been taught that there are people I can save and people I cannot save. I knew that I would be putting my own life in danger if I tried to do things that are beyond my capacity. But still, I still wanted to save her. I don't want a child to die. I don't want anyone dying in front of me. Asking for help, not being able to save someone asking for help is more scary and painful than anything. There's no way I can apologize, and I don't know her well enough to apologize either. This girl has nothing to do with me. I understand that without having to be told, but why? Why are these eyes crying irrelevant tears?
どうして？
遠坂。
どうしてよ。あいつの前に出れば殺されるって分かっていたでしょ。なのにどうしてイリアスフィールを助けようとしたの？結果はどうあれ、イリアスフィールは敵だった。なのにどうしてこの子の死にそこまでしてやれるのよ。
Did she seriously just ask me that? Tosaka's eyes were serious.
どうしても何もない。助けたいと思ったから止めただけだ。
There's no other way to explain it. After Tosaka glares at me,
そう。前から異常だと思ってたけど、今ので確信したわ。シロ、あなたの生き方はひどくいびつよ。
she tries to open the lid that I've kept closed this whole time.
いびつだって。
そうよ。自分より他人のが大切なんて生き方は間違ってる。いい？他人を助けるのは自分が愛されたいからだなんて一般論を口にしてるんじゃないわ。そんな偽善とは別のところで人間は自分を一番にしなくちゃいけないの。そりゃ他人が一番のやつだっている。けどそもそも自分っていうのは計りにかけられない別格なのよ。言うなれば計りそのものでしょ。なのにあんたはその計りを壊してどうでもいい他人を助けようとする。ええ、それでも構わない。あんたが自分のないただ生きてるだけの人間ならそれもいい。けどシロは自分があるじゃない。そんな確固たる自意識があるくせに自分をないがしろにするなんてできないのよ。そんなことを続けてたらいつか必ず壊れるから。
No way. I can't break down. In fact, I do this in order not to. I try to save people that I could not save so I can hold my head high.
いいえ、もう十分に壊れてるわ、あなたは。だから言ってよ、10年前に何があったかは知らない。けど、あんたがおかしくなってるのは、それが原因なんでしょうから。
Tosaka seems like she's got tears in her eyes. Why is she making such a face? It's almost as if she knows that I'm going to spend my life trying to help others without getting anything in return. So she's trying to earnestly stop me.
学校の時もそうだった。あなたはあれだけの死体を見てとんでもなく冷静だった。私でさえ死体と勘違いしたっていうのに、一別しただけでみんなが生きてるって読み取っていた。それがずっと変だって引っかかってた。魔術師としてろくな教育を受けていないくせに、殺し屋になってもすぐに自分を落ち着かせていた。死体を前にして憤ることはあっても、死体そのものに嫌悪を抱いてはいなかった。それはきっとあなたにとって人の死は見慣れたものだったからよ。それだけのものを10年前に見たっていうことでしょ。
Used to seeing? Yeah, it's not like that was my first time seeing them. I think about the students who were on the floor at school, Ryder who was unrecognizable by the time she died, and the girl sleeping in front of us now. To me, the people who died in that incident 10 years ago are the only ones that went through inhuman deaths. But that's wrong. The fire 10 years ago saved me. That cannot be the cause for why Tosaka is criticizing me right now.
違う、遠坂。そんなことはない。俺はただ助けられただけだ。
助けられた？あなた10年前の火事の時に助けられたのね。それがエミヤ桐次だったの。
ああ、そうだ。ただそれだけだ。あれは原因なんかじゃない。
My heart aches when I answer. My body is telling me that's a lie.
じゃあ他には何かなかった？ずっと後悔しているようなこととか、助けられる代償にエミや桐次に取られたものとかなかったの？
そんなのあるもんか。桐次は俺を助けてくれただけだ。それに取られるも何もその時は。
I shouldn't have had anything then. I saw many corpses. I died at that time and was reborn. I don't have repentances about the path I took. My eyes lost their hatred. My hands lost their anger. My feet lost their hope. And I lost myself there. So why? How did I gain the strong sense of self-awareness that Tosaka speaks of?
それは
I had accepted death. I knew that I was going to die. Even though my body was saved from such a situation, there's no way my mind could have been saved as well. At that time, I just admired something precious, still empty inside. I remember now. No, I didn't even put it in my memory. That's why I didn't even realize until now that that's what really saved me.
シロ、やっぱり何か契約でもさせられたの？
違う。取られたものなんて何もない。俺はただもらっただけだ。
A world like hell. In a place where every person except for me died, I was saved. Nobody saved me, and I wasn't able to save anyone. In my final moment, he granted something that I thought was a miracle.
覚えてる。俺を覗き込む目とか、助かってくれと懇願する声を。その淵で思ったんだ。自分が助かったことじゃなくて、助けてくれる奴がいることは、なんて。
Such a wonderful miracle. That's why I admired it. I had nothing left, not a single thing. That's why I ended up admiring the figure that appeared right before my eyes.
だから、俺は。
Only had that. That's the only emotion I had while being saved. I was happy. I cried. That's all I could think about. So, that's the only emotion I could create.
ああ、きっと遠坂は正しい。
It's twisted to prioritize others over myself. There is something seriously wrong with the procedure.
けど救われたのは俺だけだった。その時に思ったんだ。この次があるのなら助けられなかった人の代わりに全ての人を助けなくちゃいけないんだって。
それがおかしいって言ってるのよ。いい？助かったんならまず自分を大事にしろっていうの。死んじゃった人たちには悪いけど、あんただけが助かったっていうのはただの偶然よ。ならその幸運をかみしめなさい。それだけひどい目にあったんだから、あとは楽しくやんなきゃ嘘でしょ。
Tosaka is seriously angry. Yeah, that makes me really happy. I finally realize now, since Tosaka is that kind of person. The question I've been wondering about all by myself. I wanted to become a hero of justice, so I always tried to help others. I noticed there was something wrong with that method, but I couldn't understand what. But that became clear so easily, thanks to the person who gets seriously angry for my sake.
何よ、これだけ言ってもまだわからないわけ？あったまくるわね。そんなにわからずやだって言うなら、あんたとのコンビも。
いや、分かってる。言っただろ、遠坂は正しいって。
なら
けどやっぱり忠告は聞けない。確かに俺は何か間違えている。けどいいんだ。だって誰かのためになりたいっていう思いが間違いなはずがないんだからな。
So, I answer her with as much gratitude as I can.
まったく、そんな顔されたら何も言えないじゃない。
Tosaka must have felt awkward as she turns her back to me and walks away. And then,
まあ仕方ないか。こうなったらもう私が何とかしてあげるわよ。
she takes a deep sigh and complains. The sun sets. We return to the hall by the time the gray sky is tinted a crimson color. The girl's corpse is not on the mountain of rubble. Tosaka and I just buried her in the courtyard. Perhaps because that's what always happens to servants, but the black giant's remains had weathered into sand. But even if it was just sand, we still buried it in the same coffin as the girl.
さて、これからどうするかだけど、考えはある？
考え中だ。事態がまた悪い方に転んだからな。少し整理しないとやってられない。
そうね。最大の敵だったイリアスフィールとバーサーカーはいなくなったけど、代わりにわけわかんないやつが出てきたし。
And now we have an even stronger enemy.
サーバントは7人しか呼ばれないはずなのに、あいつで8人目でしょ？どう見ても既存のサーバントじゃなかったけど、シンジのやつ、どこであんなのと契約したんだか。
The eighth servant, huh? I don't think that man who Shinji brought along can be treated as a servant. A heroic spirit that absolutely dominates other heroic spirits. He has a seemingly endless supply of noble phantasms and is a demon without any human emotion.
ギルガメッシュ。それって古代メソポタミア神話に出てくる英雄だよな。
ええ、半神半人の英雄。ウルクの王、不老不死の探求者。この世の全てを治めたとされる暴君だけど、まさかあんなイカれたやつだったとは思わなかったわ。バーサーカーをこともなげに倒したことといい、あいつ本気になったセーバーより強いかもしれないわね。
Tosaka's voice doesn't sound sharp. It doesn't seem like it's because the new enemy that appeared is tough.
どうしたんだよ、遠坂。奥歯に物が挟まったような言い方だけど。
ちょっとね。あいつ確かに強かった。 あれだけの数の宝具を持ってるんだから、その力は一級品でしょ。けど実質はどうなのかなって。私あいつとバーサーカーにそう実力差はないと感じてたんだけど。
She ponders. Wait, does Tosaka not realize how strong he is?
いや、あいつ自身はセイバーやバーサーカーと同じか、きっとそれ以下だ。そもそも英霊の強さは召喚された土地での知名度によるんだろう。ならギルガメッシュなんて英雄、こっちじゃ知ってるやつはそうはいないぞ。
それはそうだけど、知名度による実力の変動だってそう大きいものじゃないわ。私にはどうもあの金ピカは反則めいて見えたんだけど。
Tosaka is calling him by a strange nickname. Well, that aside.
いや、だから反則だって。あいつの持ってた宝具はみんな本物だ。いや、そうじゃなくて、きっと本物の元になった武器なんだ。ギルガメッシュは一番古い神話の英雄で、あらゆる贅沢を尽くした王様だったんだろ。なら各地の神話の元になった原点を所有していてもおかしくない。
じゃあ何？あいつが出してた宝具は宝具じゃなくてただの武器ってこと？
だろうな。あいつの宝具自身はきっと蔵なんだ。生前にあいつが集めた財宝を収納した蔵こそがあいつの宝具なんだと思う。
And they're really intuiting this stuff, huh?
そっか。ならバーサーカーが叶わないのも当然よね。英霊たちにはそれぞれ弱点がある。全ての宝具の原型を持つんなら相手の弱点となるものを持ち出せばいいだけの話だもの。
That's right. If there's a chance of victory, it would be that he has not fully mastered each weapon yet. If he is not a bearer that can master his own weapon to its fullest potential, like Saber or Lancer, then I feel like there's still a way to win. Well, that aside.
まあ、トサカ、本当に関係ないんだけど、なんで金ピカなんだよ、あいつ。
ああ、いや、それはその髪が金色だったからとか。
何言ってんだ。それならセイバーも金ピカなんて呼んでたはずだ。金ピカ、すごいぞ。実に意味ありげじゃんか。なんか他に気づいたことがあったからそう口にしたと見た。ここまで来て隠すなよ。トサカ、なんか気づいたんだろ。
ちょっと違うってば。私のはシロみたいに真面目な話じゃないからあんまり追求しないで。
嘘つけ。根拠もなしで金ピカなんて呼ぶもんか。ほら、白状しろよ、トサカ。今は一つでも情報が欲しいんだから。
I stare at Tosaka. After a few seconds, Tosaka must have given up as she lets out a big sigh.
だからそれはあいつ高価そうなのいっぱい持ってたでしょ。それでものすごくお金持ちなんだろうなって。だから金ピカ、あの金ピカすっごい贅沢してそうじゃない。
Tosaka scratches her cheek as she looks up. What do you mean new servant data added? What do you fucking mean new servant data asked? Oh, it says now he doesn't have a master. Oh, we don't have a true name on Berserker either. Oh, I guess it's updated for the path now. Okay. That makes sense. Oh yeah, it says caster on these now too. Tosaka scratches her cheek as she looks off into the distance, laughing uncomfortably. How scary. Seems like anyone rich is considered a goldie to Tosaka. And what's more scary is that Tosaka was able to tell that servant's true nature just because he seemed rich.
ともあれ、厄介なやつが出てきたものね。8人目のサーバントって時点で破綻してるのに、そいつ自身がジョーカーなんだもの。問い詰めようにも監督役の綺麗は行方知れずだし。まあ 今はキャスターの方が大事だから後回しにするしかないんだけど。
That's right. Castor is storing more power as we speak. Saber, who is resisting Castor's control, won't be able to defy any longer. No. In the worst case, there's a possibility that even Saber is on the enemy's side now.
そうだな。イリアスフィールの協力は得られなかったけど、だからといって放っておくわけにはいかない。こうなったら2人だけでキャスターを倒せる手段を考えよう。
そうね。何のアイデアもないけどやるしかないか。
Tosaka sighs and sits down on the rubble.
まさかお城で作戦会議することになるなんてな。
I follow Tosaka's lead and sit down. Well, we'll be able to stay warm here at night. We might even be able to find the magic items Ilya's field had. And the moment that we let our guard down...
やめとけやめとけ。お前たち2人だけで裏をかく？
Oh, hey, Lancer.
そんなの通用するわけねえだろ。間抜け。
A fed-up voice echoes from the front entrance. We jump to our feet right away and face the front.
いつぞやの夜以来だな、お二人さん。お互いしぶとく生き残っているようで何よりだ。
Yeah, well, we really haven't seen him since day 3, huh?
ランサー。
I quickly concentrate and connect my magic circuit. The man that appeared is definitely Lancer. He speared my heart that night 10 days ago. I can't let that happen again. I need to at least let Tosaka escape before he swings that spear.
シロ離れて。あいつは私が引きつけるから、その間にあんたは2階に。
トサカ走れ。あいつは俺が食い止める。トサカは一旦外に。
ちょっと待った。あんた自分を大切にしろってさっきの話全然聞いてなかったみたいね。
She lowers her left hand that she had pointed at Lancer and points it at me. But even if she threatens me like that, I also have complaints.
バカ言うな。忠告は聞かないってちゃんと断っただろう。殴り合いはこっちの役目だ。あいつとは2度目だし、ここは遠坂より俺の方が向いている。
そんなわけないじゃない。相手は歩兵よ。飛び道具がない相手に飛び道具である私が逃げてどうすんのよ。
だからこそだろう。懐に入られたらおしまいってわからないか。いいか、遠坂は遠くから援護してくれればいいんだよ。
バカ、援護なんてできるか。あいにくそんな器用な魔術なんて知らないわよ。やるならあんたごと吹っ飛ばすに決まってんじゃない。
自分の壊し屋っぷりを開き直るな。だいたいどうしてそう何でもかんでも派手めで行こうってんだお前は。たまにはもっとつつましいことやってみろ。キャスターが遠坂はいらないもんって言ったのあんまり無視できないぞ本当。
Really just forgot about Lancer at this point, huh? Just having a lover's quarrel over here, huh? And we argue for a few minutes, trying to push each other away. Just about when we start to wonder how this started and start to get tired. we noticed Lancer observing us with a smile at the entrance of the castle.
あ、もう終わりか。別に急がねえから最後まで済ましちまいな。相手への不満はとことん吐き出しといた方がいいぞ。
I cough in regret and glare at Lancer. I take a half step forward and Tosaka is slightly behind me. Jeez, there wouldn't have been a problem if we had been like this from the start.
ああ、待て待て。せっかく同意を得たところ悪いが、こっちに戦う気はない。見るに見かねてな。少しばかり手助けしてやろうと出しゃばりに来たわけだ。
Oh. Hold on. What did he just say?
聞き違いかしら。今手助けをするって聞こえたけど。
なんだ、わかりづらいか。なら言い直すか。お前たち2人だけではキャスターたちには太刀打ちできん。できんだろうから俺が手を貸してやると言ったんだ。
My eyes widen. But Tosaka quickly grasps the situation.
そう、本当に出しゃばりね、ランサー。聞くけど、それはあなたのアイデア？
いや、俺のマスターからの指示だ。キャスターたちがああなっちまった以上、一人きりの身としては協力者が欲しいんだと。
まっとうな理由ね。 けどそれなら私たちよりもっと頼りがいのあるやつがいるでしょ。
Is she talking about Shinji and Gilgamesh? Tosaka seems to be trying to find out whether Lancer knows about Shinji.
いや、あれはダメだ。とてもじゃないが性に合わん。戦力的には申し分ないが、いちいち背中の心配をするのも面倒だろ
ふん、正しい選択ね、ランサー。けどそれもあなたのマスターの指示ってわけ？
それも違うな。あんたらを選んだのは俺の趣味だ。一度面識がある分話が早いだろう。
I don't know if you call murderer and victim acquaintances. You know, he says casually. It seems like fighting Archer and stabbing me in the heart are the same as becoming acquaintances in his mind.
待てランサー、俺はお前に2度も殺されかかった。だっていうのにお前の言葉を信用すると思っているのか？
思っているさ。お前の参謀はさっぱりとしたいい女だからな。そんな女が手を貸すってんだから、お前だって物好きなお人よしなんだろ。
I frown unintentionally. I'm troubled that Tosaka, who's supposed to be my ally, is nodding at Lancer's words.
そういうわけだ。だから協力できるって思ったのさ。ああ、言っておくが、お前たちがじゃない。お前たちなら協力してやっていいとこの俺が思ったんだ。
I honestly can't tell the difference in the way he reworded it.
大した自信ね。協力しようって持ちかけておいて選ぶのはそっちってこと？
ああ、初見からあんたのことは気に入ってたんだぜ。美人で強情で肝が据わっていると来ている。女をマスターにするんならな、あんたみたいなのがいい。
Hey, you're in luck. That's what happens in Fate Extra. Lancer looks at Tosaka with cool eyes. I don't like him for some reason.
いいわ、私は賛成。けどまだ決定じゃない。エミヤ君が信用できないって言うならこの話はなかったことにするけど。
だそうだ。どうする小僧。お前器を試されてるぞ。
Lancer looks at me, trying to suppress his laughter. My answer is... I don't mind, but under one condition. We have to accept his offer. Even if he is an enemy, his argument is correct. Tosaka and I alone can't beat Castor, but there should be some hope if we have Lancer's help. However...
分かった。お前の言い分は信じる。けど条件付きだ。キャスターを倒すために手を貸してもらうし、俺たちもお前を信用する。その代わり。
その代わりなんだ？俺のマスターを教えろってか？
違う。仲間だからって気安く遠坂には近寄るな。
The air freezes. Lancer becomes speechless as if he was completely caught off guard.
なるほどなるほど。そりゃそうだ。俺のマスターなんぞよりそっちの方が何倍も重要だよな、坊主。
Oh, he liked that. He starts laughing as if it's the funniest thing he's heard.
なんだよ、悪いか。言っとくけど、遠坂はやらないからな。
まさか悪くなんかね。むしろ見直したところだ。いや、いいね、お嬢ちゃん。坊主、あんたにぞっこんじゃないか。
何言ってんのよあんた。私とシロはそんなんじゃないわよ。そう、私たちはただの協力関係なんだから。
そうか？
なんかムカつくわねあんた。何よその見透かしたような顔は。ほら、シロもなんか言いなさいよ。私たちはただの協力関係だって。なんか言いなさいよバカ。これじゃ本当に私た たちが付き合ってるって。
だから本当も何もとっくに出来上がってんだよお前たち。傍から見てる俺でさえわかるのに当の本人たちがごまかしてるだな。ああ、こりゃこの先も大変だぞ少年。
Lancer makes a sympathetic gesture.
まあ遠坂が大変なのはもう分かってるから。
I reply with a sour look to let him know there's no problem.
ほう、そりゃ頼もしい。じゃあ俺もそれなりに気を使ってジョーちゃんと付き合おう。だがまあからかうと面白いジョーちゃんなんだな。道中楽しませてはもらうぜ。それぐらいの見返りは構わねえだろ。
分かった、その線でいこう。キャスターを倒すまであんたの力を借りる。
Good to see that a compromise has been reached.
決まりだな。じゃあまあとりあえず握手と。
Lancer comes up to me unarmed and shakes my right hand that I awkwardly put out. There are worrying factors, but we were able to obtain a reliable ally. All that's left is...
このカッタが来た。いいわよ、あんたたちなんてこっちから願い下げよう。こうなったら私一人でキャスターをとっちめるんだから。
How can I calm the roused Tosaka down? Great question. We walk in the forest at night. Although we don't know what his intentions are, having Lancer's cooperation now means we don't have to stay at the castle. Lancer must have taken a liking to Tosaka as he keeps messing with her and getting hit by her.
ちょっと、あんたね、ちゃんと自分のマスターがいるんでしょ。ならおとなしくしてなさいよ。
He does, but he fucking hates his current master.
キャスターを倒したら敵同士になるんだし、話なんかしてもしょうがないでしょ。作戦会議以外はみんな無駄口よ、無駄口。
なんだ、敵になるからって話はなしか。見かけによらず余裕がないんだな。相手が敵であろうと気が合うなら膝交えて語り明かすってのが情だろうに。
いつの時代の人間よ、あんた。そういうね、明日には殺すけど今日は親友だなんてのは今時流行らないの。やるとなったら徹底してやらないと相手にも失礼じゃない。
はあ、そりゃまたつまんねえ世の中になったもんだ。
Lancer never learns. I feel like they've been repeating the same kind of conversation for a while now.
それよりランサー、自分の役割きちっと分かってるんでしょうね。
ああ、梅雨払いは任せておけ。お前たち二人でキャスターとそのマスターと戦うんだろ。俺の役目はアーチャーの相手だ。最悪セーバーもどうにかしなくちゃならんが、まあ抑えるだけなら問題ない。
Lancer speaks objectively. He isn't even scared of fighting both Saber and Archer at the same time. Come to think of it, Saber told me when we were training in the dojo. She said Lancer is the best among the servants when it comes to just surviving. She praised him, saying that he had excellent agility and plentiful combat experience, and that he would be an impregnable defense if he went into defense. He must have fought many battles from disadvantageous positions when he was alive. The aloof man must be heroic spirit who ran through the jaws of death many times and survived.
それはいいけどな。敵はアーチャーとセイバーだけじゃない。キャスターの下にはアサシンもいるんだろう。なら最悪あんたの相手は3人ってことになるぞ。
ああ、そりゃやべえな。あの野郎は苦手だ。できれば1対1でもやり合いたかね。あの手のやつは遠くから仕留めるに限るが、まあその心配は不要だな。アサシンは教会には現れない。
どうしてそう断言できるのよ。キャスターが竜道寺に戻らないなら門番としてアサシンだって呼び戻すんじゃないの。
いや、アサシンはキャスターが呼び出したサーバントだが、それゆえに制約がある。奴はあの場所そのものに呼び出された。
He's probably just linked to the ley line of Rita Temple.
何よりキャスターが呼び戻さんだろう。あれはキャスターがマスターに黙って独断で召喚したサーバントだ。マスターが教会にいる以上は隠し通すし、 おいそれと竜道寺を手放すこともできまい。
竜道寺を手放せない。それってつまり
聖杯の召喚場所があの山だからだろうな。知っているか、聖杯戦争は今回で5回目だが、聖杯が呼び出される土地は4カ所ある。そのうちの一つが竜道寺であり、教会でもあるわけだ。ちなみに3回目の召喚場所は教会だったらしい。4回目はどこぞの平地だったそうだ。
へえ、戦ってれば幸せみたいな人だと思ったけど、意外に物知りなんだあなた。
単にマスターが小難しいやつなだけだ。お前たちの事情に関心があるわけじゃない。
けどそっか。じゃあ今回の召喚場所って1回目と同じ場所に戻ったってことなのね。
Tosaka mumbles while she ponders. Lancer watches her with delight and walks on in the dark forest. It's deep into the night, and the date has long since changed. Dawn should be breaking by the time we get out of this forest and return to town. I mentally prepare myself as I walk. We will challenge Castor one more time in a few hours. I won't hesitate, even if that girl has become our enemy by then. We'll defeat Castor. I have to accept that there's the top I have to accept that that's the top priority right now. We head to the battlefield. No matter what waits for us at the church at daybreak, we can't stop now. Alright. So I guess I'll end things off here. And the next one, we're going to go finally try to finish things with Castor. So, I'll see you all then. Bye.